Chloe, thank you for coming back, guys. I know we've done 5 units so far. Today's unit 6. It's going to be on barriers and constraints. We're going to be talking about how to overcome the things that hold you back from participating in leisure. As being adults, all older than 65, I understand that sometimes it's hard to address those constraints and those barriers. So it's really going to help you understand yourself and then how we can move forward in our leisure activities going forward through our units. So there are 3 different types of constraints. We're going to do a bit of education first before we go into our activities. So does anyone know a little bit about what an interpersonal constraint is? It's okay if you don't. These are very different. A lot of people just think of constraints as holding them back. But an intrapersonal constraint is actually the psychological state that influences a preference. So an example of this is not having enough skills for the activity or not having enough confidence. So I'm just going to write it down so you can reference it later on. Influences your preference. So another type of constraint that we could have is an interpersonal constraint. So interpersonal is your relationship with others, how you interact with others. Sometimes when you really want to go to the gym, but you don't have that friend to encourage you, so you don't have a friend to come with you. Or you really might want to play a game of catch, and there's nobody there. So how can those constraints stop you, and how can we work forward through those? And I can't spell. Relationship with others. So the last constraint that we sometimes get stuck with is structural constraints. And those are factors that intervene between the desire to participate and actual participation. So that could be lack of money. So sometimes you really want to join that baseball team or whatever it could be, but you don't have the money to do it. So what are the ways around that? How can we get the money? How could we do something else that might be free? Or could you build your own team? So there's always some kind of way to work around these constraints to make it happen in the end. So it can be really easy to recognize it in someone else, but really hard to recognize it in yourself. And sometimes we get so caught up in the negative pieces of constraints and barriers, we don't stop to think about how can we turn this around to be a positive? How can we make this work? So what we're going to start with today is I'm going to have you guys come stand in a line here. I'm going to read out 3 constraints, and I'd love for you to be honest. We've worked with each other for 6 weeks now, so we're not going to judge each other. Take a step forward if it might apply for you. So this way you can start thinking about those type of activities that might be stopping you from pursuing what you would actually like to. Okay, so come line up over here. So take a step forward if you have felt like you're not good enough to be on a team. So sometimes it can be as simple as playing cards with someone else and you really wanted to play but you didn't because you didn't feel like you were good enough. So thank you for being honest. Take a step forward if you felt like your family, friends did not support the effort of you going into the gym or playing a sport or completing an activity. Thank you. Take a step forward if you wanted to be part of a leisure activity, however did not have the money to do so. Awesome. So now what we are going to do is we're recognizing that we all have constraints and barriers. Everyone at some kind of point has taken a step forward. So what we're going to do is with the 2 pieces of paper you have, I would like you to choose one piece of paper and identify one constraint that applies to you. We all are different learners, so if you want to sit on the bench, you can sit on the bench. You can also sit on the ground and spread out a little bit. But I'm going to give you guys just a few seconds to look at one constraint that you want to focus on right now. Something that you would like to pursue, but there's one thing holding you back. If you need any help, just let me know. That's a really good one. That one can be hard to navigate. Does anyone need any help, or are you guys okay? All right, so it looks like we're all finished. So now I want you to get a partner. Someone you're comfortable with, someone you've worked with over the last few weeks. Awesome. So with your partner, you are going to try to come up with a way you can overcome this constraint. How can we work through this? So a lot of the time it's hard to kind of recognize the constraint you have, but instead what I want you to do is maybe help out your partner. Maybe you have a different way to put a positive spin that can bring light to your partner. So go ahead, chat, figure it out. If you want my help, let me know. So when you have come up with that way to overcome it, write on your other piece of paper, okay? Don't worry, you guys have time, so you can take your time with this. You guys are okay? Family's not just blood.
Yeah. There you go.
That's a really good one.
You're doing something for the person and up here, you just appreciate my money for all the groups. And knowing that I think how to start something more.
You guys are okay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Here,
Okay,
yeah,
so
Yep.
Yeah. So I do understand that sometimes it's hard to share those things that can be hard for us. So instead of doing that today, I want you to focus on the second piece of paper. Focus on the way that you can overcome this and how to move forward. So take that first piece of paper and I want you to practice your basketball skills from sitting down and shoot it into the garbage because we're getting rid of that constraint. We've figured out a way to move forward from this.
Redo.
Second chances. That's okay. I got it. All right. So just to end today on a positive note, I want us to do the same thing we've done in the past. So what we're going to do is share one thing that we are proud of, and as we move forward. There's still 6 more sessions. There's so much growth that is going to come when we look at leisure education. There's ways to confront these constraints and confront these barriers. So just one thing, say it out loud that you are proud of regarding leisure. Go ahead.
I won my bingo game last week.
Yeah!
I went to church.
Way to go. Way to go.
I played catch with my grandfather.
That's amazing.
I made a new friend.
Wow.
I did tug of war with my dog.
That is awesome.
I went dancing last Saturday.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming today, and I can't wait to see you guys next week.
Thank you.